"Behave yourself, cowboy," a man said, when the Apache girl was facing the men who burned her village. She was 16 years old, with sharp eyes that seemed to notice everything around her. She was kind and gentle, yet there was a spark of courage in her heart that made her different from other children in the village. Every day, she helped her family with small tasks, learned from the elders, and played with the other children, her laughter echoing across the fields. Life was simple, but it was full of warmth and love. Nayeli loved her village. She knew every path, every tree, and every stone. She knew where the best berries grew and where the river ran deepest. She also loved the stories her elders told about their ancestors, stories of bravery and wisdom. Those stories were important to her because they taught her how to live honorably and with courage. She often imagined herself as one of those heroes, facing challenges but never giving up. One morning, the calm of the village was broken by sounds that no one could ignore. There was shouting, the clatter of hooves, and the crackling of fire. Nayeli's heart skipped a beat as she ran toward the noise. Smoke was rising from the far edge of the village, and the sharp smell of burning wood and homes filled the air. Men with guns and torches had come, and they were destroying everything in their path. Nayeli could see the fear in the eyes of her neighbors as they tried to save what little they could. Her home, the place where she had grown up, was now engulfed in flames. Nayeli felt a mixture of fear, anger, and helplessness. She wanted to run and hide, but part of her wanted to stay and fight, even though she knew it was dangerous. Her parents called for her, but the chaos was too great. She grabbed a small bag with water and food, said a silent prayer for her family, and ran into the forest. She ran as fast as her legs could carry her, her heart pounding in her chest. The forest was dense, but Nayeli knew it well. She ducked behind trees, crawled through underbrush, and used every skill she had learned as a child. Her small size allowed her to move quickly and quietly. She avoided the roads and trails, knowing the raiders might follow them. Hours passed, and she did not stop until she found a small clearing with a stream. She drank the cool water and finally allowed herself a moment to rest. Her clothes were torn, her body was tired, but her mind was sharper than ever. She knew that surviving was not enough. She wanted to face those who had taken everything from her. As she sat thinking, a rustle in the bushes made her freeze. A man emerged, dressed in worn clothes, a wide-brimmed hat shading his eyes, and a calm, steady presence about him. He carried a rifle, but it was not raised in threat. Nayeli instinctively stepped back, ready to defend herself. The man raised his hands in peace. "I mean no harm," he said. His voice was steady and calm, and there was something about it that made Nayeli hesitate. The man introduced himself as a cowboy, a traveler who had been moving through the area. He had seen the smoke from the village and knew something terrible had happened. He watched Nayeli carefully and noticed the determination in her eyes. "You're brave," he said quietly, "but bravery without thought can be dangerous. Behave yourself, cowboy." He said it with a small smile, not mocking, but warning her to be careful. Nayeli did not understand the full meaning at first, but the words stuck in her mind. She realized that her anger was strong, but if she let it control her, it could lead to more harm than good. The cowboy offered her food and water. She accepted, cautiously, not trusting anyone fully yet. They talked quietly, and she learned that he had faced many dangerous situations himself. He shared stories of how acting with patience and strategy could save lives, even in the most terrifying moments. Nayeli listened closely, absorbing every word. She began to see that courage alone was not enough. She would need wisdom and planning if she wanted to face those who had destroyed her village. Days passed as Nayeli and the cowboy traveled together. He taught her small survival skills, how to move quietly, how to notice signs in the environment, and how to use simple tools to her advantage. Nayeli, in turn, taught him about the forest and the land, sharing knowledge that had been passed down in her village for generations. A bond of trust began to form, built on mutual respect and shared purpose. The cowboy never tried to take control. He guided her, letting her make decisions while offering advice when necessary. Naomi thought often about her village. She remembered the laughter of children, the warmth of family, and the songs of the elders. She thought about how quickly it had all been taken away, and how the men who had burned her home thought they could destroy her spirit. She refused to let that happen. She trained herself every day, running through the woods, practicing with sticks as pretend weapons, and imagining strategies to confront the raiders. The cowboy watched silently, offering guidance when she seemed to struggle. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Naomi sat quietly by the fire. She thought about the cowboy's words, "Behave yourself, cowboy." She realized that courage was not just about facing danger. It was about controlling her fear and anger, using them to act wisely. That night, she made a promise to herself. She would not let rage guide her actions. She would be careful, strategic, and strong. She would face the raiders not recklessly but with the wisdom of her ancestors guiding her. The next morning they began tracking the raiders. Naomi's eyes were sharp, noticing footprints, broken branches, and other signs left by the men. The cowboy taught her to observe without reacting too quickly, to plan her moves carefully. Each step brought her closer to the men who had destroyed her village, but she felt no fear, only determination. She was ready to confront them, but she also knew that patience and intelligence would be her greatest weapons. As they traveled, Naomi shared memories of her village with the cowboy, simple moments that reminded her of what she was fighting for. She spoke of the elders' stories, the songs of her people, and the lessons she had learned. The cowboy listened, never interrupting, and offered quiet encouragement. Slowly, she felt a sense of purpose grow within her. This journey was not just about revenge. It was about justice, courage, and honoring those she had lost. The part of the forest they traveled through was rugged and dangerous, with steep cliffs, fast rivers, and thick underbrush. Naomi used everything she had learned, moving carefully and confidently. The cowboy stayed close, guiding her when needed but never taking over. He respected her strength and determination, knowing she was becoming a young woman capable of facing challenges on her own. By the time night fell, they had reached a vantage point overlooking a valley. From there, Naomi could see signs of the raiders' camp in the distance. Smoke rose faintly from their fire, and she could hear the distant sounds of men speaking and moving. Her heart pounded not with fear but with anticipation. The moment to act was coming and she felt ready. The cowboy looked at her, his eyes serious. "Remember what I said," he whispered. "Behave yourself. Courage without control can destroy you. Patience and planning are your greatest strengths." Naomi nodded. She understood now. Her courage, her anger, and her desire for justice must all be guided by wisdom. She was ready to face the men who had caused so much pain, but she would do it with careful thought, not reckless action. The first part of her journey ended there, in the quiet of the night, with Naomi and the cowboy preparing for the confrontation ahead. She knew the path would be difficult, that danger awaited, but she also knew she was not alone. She had the wisdom of her ancestors, the guidance of the cowboy, and the strength of her own heart. When the sun rose the next day, she would step forward not as a frightened girl, but as a young woman ready to face the world and fight for justice. The morning sun broke over the horizon, casting golden light across the valley. Naomi woke with a steady determination, her heart focused on the path ahead. The cowboy was already awake, quietly tending to the small fire they had built. He looked at her with a calm, understanding expression. "Today is the day," he said softly. Naomi nodded. She had spent days learning patience, observing the environment, and preparing herself mentally. She was ready. Together, they moved carefully toward the raiders' camp. Naomi remembered every lesson she had been taught by her elders, by her own experiences, and by the cowboy. She observed the slightest movements in the forest, listened to distant sounds, and noticed every broken branch or disturbed stone that could give her information. Each step brought them closer, and with every step her confidence grew. As they approached the edge of the camp, Naeli crouched behind a large rock. From this vantage point, she could see the men clearly. They were unprepared, laughing and talking as if the world belonged to them. Naeli's blood boiled for a moment, remembering the fire and destruction they had caused in her village. But she took a deep breath, recalling the cowboy's words, "Behave yourself. Patience and planning are your greatest strengths." Her anger transformed into focus. The cowboy whispered strategies, pointing out the best places to hide and observe. Naeli listened carefully, absorbing every word. She knew that rushing in blindly would not bring justice. It could only lead to more pain. Instead, she would use her intelligence and courage together, creating a plan that would expose the raiders without unnecessary risk. She noticed the layout of the camp, a circle of tents with a fire in the center, men moving between them, and horses tied nearby. Naeli's mind worked quickly. She thought of ways to separate them, to make their actions visible to those who could stop them. She remembered how her village elders spoke of strategy and wisdom, and she realized that courage alone was not enough. This was the moment to combine all she had learned into action. As the sun climbed higher, Naeli moved quietly along the edge of the camp. Her steps were soft, careful, almost invisible. She observed the men's behavior, noting who was in charge and how they communicated. The cowboy stayed a short distance behind her, providing quiet support but allowing her to take the lead. Naeli felt a mixture of nerves and excitement. She knew the confrontation would test her in every way, but she was ready. Suddenly, one of the raiders spotted movement near the trees. Naeli froze, holding her breath. The man's gaze swept the forest, but he did not see her clearly. She stayed still, blending into the shadows, and waited until he returned to the camp. Her heart pounded, but she did not panic. She had learned to control her fear, to use it as a tool rather than let it control her. Naeli realized that direct confrontation was not the only way to achieve justice. She began setting small traps, simple signs, disturbed branches and markers that would reveal the raiders' presence to anyone who came looking. She carefully moved through the camp's perimeter, making notes in her mind about where each man was and what he was doing. Every movement was calculated, every decision deliberate. She was no longer just a girl seeking revenge, she was a strategist, using her mind as much as her courage. The cowboy watched silently, impressed by her calm and precise actions. He had trained many, but Naeli's combination of intelligence, bravery, and observation was extraordinary. "You've grown stronger than I imagined," he whispered. Naeli smiled faintly, acknowledging his words but keeping her focus. There was still work to do. By mid-morning, Naeli had gathered enough information to act. She whispered her plan to the cowboy. They would not attack directly. Instead, they would expose the raiders' crimes to the nearby townspeople and authorities, ensuring that justice was served without unnecessary harm. The cowboy nodded, approving of her wisdom. This was exactly what he had hoped she would learn, that courage and intelligence together could achieve more than anger and recklessness. Naeli moved with careful precision, creating signs and leaving evidence in places where it could be discovered. She made it clear what the raiders had done, using the men's own actions against them. The cowboy assisted quietly, making sure she remained safe. The raiders, unaware of what was happening, continued their routine, confident and careless. Naeli's heart swelled with quiet satisfaction. She was in control, and justice would soon be revealed. As the sun reached its peak, townspeople who had been alerted by the cowboy began to arrive. Naeli observed from her hiding place as they entered the camp, guided by the signs she had left. The raiders were caught by surprise, unable to deny their actions. The townspeople, armed with knowledge and evidence, took control without unnecessary violence. Naeli felt a sense of relief and triumph. She had achieved justice through wisdom and courage, without letting anger dictate her actions. After the raiders were captured, Naeli and the cowboy approached the camp. The girl stood tall, her heart steady. She looked at the men who had caused so much pain and said nothing. Her silence spoke louder than any words could. She had faced them, planned carefully, and ensured that justice was done. The cowboy stood beside her, proud of the young woman she had become. In the days that followed, Naeli returned to the area of her village. The land was scarred, but there was hope in the air. She began helping rebuild what had been lost, guiding others with the wisdom she had gained. Her actions inspired those around her, showing that courage combined with intelligence and patience could overcome even the greatest challenges. She honored the memory of her family and neighbors, teaching others the lessons she had learned about bravery, restraint, and strategy. Naeli reflected on the journey she had taken, from the day her village was destroyed to the moment she had ensured justice was served. She realized that her true strength came not just from her courage, but from her ability to remain calm, think clearly, and act wisely. The cowboy's words, "Behave yourself, cowboy," had guided her every step, reminding her that true bravery was always tempered by wisdom. Over time, Naeli became a leader and a mentor for others. She shared her knowledge of the land, survival skills, and strategies for facing challenges. Her story spread among the surrounding villages, inspiring others to act with courage and intelligence, even in the darkest of times. She never forgot the pain she had suffered, but she transformed it into strength, ensuring that her experiences would guide and protect others. The cowboy eventually moved on, knowing his work with Naeli was complete. He left her with a quiet smile and a nod of respect, proud of the young woman she had become. Naeli continued to thrive, building a life that honored her ancestors and the lessons they had passed down. She understood now that courage alone was not enough to face the world. It required thought, patience, and the willingness to act wisely. As the years passed, Naeli's village grew stronger and more united. She helped teach the next generation, ensuring that the knowledge and strength she had gained would never be forgotten. She had faced loss, fear, and danger, yet she emerged not just as a survivor, but as a symbol of wisdom and resilience. Her journey had transformed her, and in doing so, it transformed the community around her. Naeli often thought back to the day she met the cowboy and the simple words he had spoken. "Behave yourself, cowboy." Those words had become a guiding principle in her life. They reminded her that true bravery is measured not by recklessness, but by the careful balance of courage, wisdom, and compassion. Through her actions, she showed that even in the face of tragedy, it is possible to act with honor, achieve justice, and rebuild what has been lost. In the end, Naeli's story was one of resilience, courage, and the power of a clear mind guided by wisdom. She had faced unimaginable challenges, yet she had grown stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. The memory of her village, the guidance of the cowboy, and the lessons of her ancestors shaped her into a young woman capable of overcoming anything. Her journey stood as a reminder that true strength comes from the heart and mind working together, and that even in the darkest times, hope, justice, and courage can prevail.